He boardroom at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, was a study in military precision. Polished oak table, flags standing sentinel, the air heavy with the scent of coffee and authority. I sat in the back row, my Navy uniform crisp, my lieutenant's bars gleaming under the fluorescent lights. At 32, I was Lieutenant Commander Sarah Miles, a naval intelligence officer specializing in cyber forensics. But to the men at the front of the room, my father, Rear Admiral David Holt, and my older brother, Lieutenant Commander Ethan Holt, I was just the tech nerd who didn't belong in their world of steel and strategy. On this spring morning, as my father addressed the room, his voice booming with command, I felt their eyes skip over me. Then he said it: cyber skills are a sideshow. The Navy needs warriors, not keyboard warriors. Ethan's lips twitched into a smirk. They didn't know I was about to turn their world upside down. Growing up in a Navy family, I learned early that I was the odd one out. Dad was a legend, a destroyer captain who'd stared down storms and enemies alike. Ethan was his mirror, Annapolis grad pilot, the son who carried the Holt name like a medal. Mom, before she passed, was the only one who saw me, teaching me to code on her old laptop, whispering that data could be a weapon sharper than any blade. But to Dad, my knack for unraveling digital puzzles was a parlor trick, not a career. At family dinners, Ethan's flight missions dominated the conversation, while my work, decrypting signals, tracking threats, was met with polite nods or silence. I'd smile, clear the plates, and tell myself it didn't matter. But it did. Every time Dad said, "Ethan's the future of this family," it was a reminder. I was the footnote. I joined the Navy to prove I could belong, choosing intelligence over the bridge Dad wanted for me. At Fort Bragg, I was part of a joint task force, analyzing cyber threats for special operations. My work saved missions, but it was invisible. Briefings buried in classified reports, successes credited to others. I didn't need applause, just a moment to be seen. So when Dad was invited to speak at a task force briefing, I thought maybe this time. I prepared a report, my best work, tracing a hacker network targeting our supply chain. I handed it to my CO, hoping it'd reach the front of the room. Instead, Dad stood at the podium, dismissing cyber as a distraction from real war fighting. Ethan, seated beside him, smirked like he'd won a bet. The room chuckled and I felt my face burn, my report untouched on the table. The shift in me didn't come all at once. It started a year ago when I skipped a family 4th of July barbecue. I told them I was on duty, but really I was tired of being the afterthought. I spent the night in my apartment in Raleigh, decoding a ransomware attack. The glow of my laptop my only company. That solitude was freedom. I built a system to track digital footprints, my own blend of code and intuition, and it worked. My team disrupted a major cyber attack on a naval base. I didn't tell my family. I didn't need their validation anymore. I bought a small house in Raleigh, paid in cash, no mortgage, no post on social media. It wasn't a secret, it was mine. This briefing was my chance to stop hiding. I wore my uniform like armor, my report in my bag, ready to speak if given the chance. But Dad's words, keyboard warriors, cut deeper than I expected. The room moved on, officers clapping as he finished his speech. Ethan leaned back, his smirk a silent echo of Dad's dismissal. Then the CO, Captain Rivera, a quiet man with a reputation for fairness, stood up. "Before we close," he said, his voice steady, "we have one more item. Lieutenant Commander Miles, your report on the hacker network. Brief it now." Every head turned. Dad's jaw tightened, Ethan's smirk froze. I stood, my legs steady despite the pulse hammering in my throat, and walked to the podium. I kept my voice even, laying out the network I'd cracked. IP addresses, shell companies, a trail leading to a contractor skimming millions from Navy contracts. "This isn't a sideshow," I said, looking at Dad. "This is the front line." The room was silent, eyes locked on me, not him. I saw Dad shift, his face unreadable. Ethan's hands clenched under the table. When I finished, Rivera nodded. "Outstanding, Miles. This goes to the Inspector General." A murmur rippled through the room, officers nodding, a few standing in respect. Dad didn't move. Ethan's eyes burned, but he said nothing. I walked back to my seat, past them, feeling their stares like heat on my back. As I left the building, my phone buzzed. A voicemail from Lieutenant Chin, a teammate who'd been in the room. "Sarah, you stirred up a hornet's nest," he said, his voice low, excited. "Call me. You need to hear what happened after you walked out." I stood in the parking lot, the spring air cool against my skin. What had Dad said? Was Ethan spinning it to save face? Did the room see me or just the drama? I didn't listen to the rest, not yet. I'd fired my shot. Now I wanted to know what broke in that room after I left. The story's getting more and more interesting, isn't it? Don't miss out on what happens next. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. Let's see what other challenges await our hero. The Fort Bragg parking lot was quiet as I leaned against my car, the spring sun warm on my face, Lieutenant Chen's voicemail still unplayed on my phone. My heart was still racing from the briefing, standing at that podium calling out my father's dismissal in front of a room full of officers, watching Ethan's smirk falter. I'd spent years fading into the background of the Holt family legend, but today I'd stepped into the light. The question was, what happened after I left? Did Dad try to laugh it off? Did Ethan spin it to save face? I didn't listen to Chen's message yet. Instead, I drove back to Raleigh, the weight of the moment settling like dust. My phone buzzed again. Text from teammates, a missed call from Mom's sister Aunt Karen who'd been at the briefing. I ignored them all, needing the quiet of my own space to process what I'd just done. Back at my cottage, I fed my cat, Pixel, and poured a glass of iced tea, the glass sweating in my hand. My laptop sat open, the report I'd presented still glowing on the screen. A digital map of a hacker network, every line of code a testament to the work Dad called a sideshow. I finally played Chen's voicemail. "Sarah, you lit a fuse," he said, his voice a mix of awe and urgency. "Your dad tried to brush it off, said you were overzealous." Ethan backed him up, but Rivera shut them down, said your work's going straight to the top. "Call me, there's more." I set the phone down, my pulse quickening. What was the more? Was Dad rallying his allies, or was the room starting to see through him? And Ethan, what was he planning? The next morning my inbox was a minefield. Teammates sent quick notes. "Nailed it, Miles." "Aunt Karen, Sarah, I'm so proud." "Call me." Nothing from Dad or Ethan. Then a text from Chin. "Meet me at Brood Awakening noon." Got details. I arrived at the cafe, a small place with exposed brick and the hum of espresso machines. Chin was at a corner table, his laptop half closed. "You've got their attention," he said as I sat down. "After you left, Rivera pulled your dad aside. Told him the Inspector General's already looking at that contractor you flagged." Ethan tried to interrupt, said it was just tech stuff, but nobody bought it. Your dad's face, he looked like he'd been hit. I stirred my coffee, the knot in my chest loosening. "And Ethan?" I asked. Chen's eyes narrowed. "He's pissed. Kept saying you're making it personal. But Sarah, people are talking about you now. They're calling you Cypher." Cypher. The nickname caught me off guard, a nod to my knack for cracking digital puzzles. It felt like a badge, one I hadn't asked for but didn't mind wearing. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. Chin leaned back, his voice low. "Because I've seen how they treat you. You're the best analyst I've worked with, but your dad and brother act like you're invisible. Yesterday you made them see you." His words hit like a spark, igniting something I'd buried under years of silence. But why was Chin so invested? Was he just a teammate, or was there more to his support? That afternoon I checked my bank account, the one I'd shared with Dad for years. $2,500, my money, used for his emergencies, like Ethan's flight school fees or Mom's old medical bills. I'd always refilled it, no questions asked. Now I transferred every cent to my personal account and closed it. The confirmation felt like cutting a chain. An hour later Ethan called. I let it go to voicemail. His voice was tight, venomous. "Sarah, closing the account? That's low. You know we needed that for family stuff. Call me back." I deleted it. He didn't get to call the shots anymore. The next day I drafted an email to the family group BCCing Chin and Aunt Karen. Subject: Re-briefing. "Hi all, let's clear the air. I've funded Dad's car repairs, $1,000, Ethan's training courses, $1,500, and Mom's charity events, $800, over the years. I bought a house, built a system that stopped a cyber attack, and delivered a report that's now with the Inspector General. All without your applause. Yesterday I was called a sideshow for doing my job. I've closed the joint account. I'm done being the invisible one. If you want to talk, I'm here, but not to play your game." I hit send, my hand steady, my breath even. Replies came fast. Aunt Karen, you're a force, Sarah. Always knew it. Chin. Cipher strikes again. Sarah, let's talk. I didn't mean it like that. Ethan predictably stayed silent. Then a text from Rivera. Miles, meeting tomorrow, my office. Bring your notes. This isn't over. My heart skipped. What was Rivera planning? Was he pushing my report higher, or was there pushback from Dad's allies? And Ethan's silence. Was he regrouping, or had I finally shaken him? I called Chin. What's the more you mentioned? I asked. He hesitated, then said, after you left, Ethan was on his phone talking to someone from that contractor. Sounded heated. I couldn't hear much, but it's not good, Sarah. Watch your back. I hung up, the warning settling like ice in my veins. What was Ethan hiding? And how far would he and Dad go to protect their world? That night, I sat on my porch, Pixel curled in my lap, the Raleigh skyline a faint glow. A package arrived. No return address, just Aunt Karen's handwriting. Inside was a photo of me at 12, hunched over Mom's laptop, coding my first program. A note read, your mom would be so proud. I held it, the memory of her voice. Data's your weapon, Sarah, warming the edges of Chen's warning. Something was coming and I wasn't sure what. But for the first time, I wasn't afraid of the shadows. The days after my email felt like standing on a fault line, waiting for the ground to shift. My phone was quieter than usual. No family group chat banter, no calls from Dad or Ethan. Just a few texts from Aunt Karen and Chin checking in. My Raleigh cottage became my fortress. Pixel purring on the couch, my laptop humming with work. I kept busy analyzing new data for the task force, but Ethan's silence was loud. I knew my brother, he didn't retreat. Was he plotting with that contractor, or had my words finally dented his armor? And Chen's warning about Ethan's call. What was he hiding? The questions lingered, but I didn't chase them. I'd drawn my line. Now I waited to see who'd cross it. The next morning, I met Captain Rivera in his office at Fort Bragg. He sat behind his desk, a stack of my reports in front of him. Miles, he said, his voice steady, your work's caused a stir. The Inspector General's moving fast. That contractor, Vanguard Solutions, is under investigation. Your report was the spark. I nodded, my pulse quickening. Any pushback? I asked. Rivera's eyes narrowed. Plenty. Vanguard's got friends in high places. Your dad's been calling in favors, trying to slow it down. My stomach twisted. And Ethan? Rivera leaned forward. He's been seen with Vanguard CO. We're watching him. The words hit like a cold wave. Ethan wasn't just complicit, he was in deep. What were they planning? That afternoon, Chin texted, meet me at Brood Awakening. Urgent. I found him at our usual table, his face tense. Sarah, I hacked into Vanguard's server logs. Off the books, he whispered. Found an encrypted call between Ethan and their CO, dated the night of the briefing. They mentioned containing the problem. Sounded like they meant you. My breath caught. Was this a threat or something worse? Why are you risking this? I asked. Chen's jaw tightened. Because you're not just a teammate. You're the only one who sees the patterns I do. I'm not letting them bury you. His intensity startled me. Was Chin just a friend, or was there more to his loyalty? A week later, Ethan showed up at my cottage unannounced. He stood on my porch, his flight jacket pristine, his face a mask of controlled anger. Sarah, he said, you're tearing the family apart. That email closing the account, it's selfish. I didn't invite him in. Selfish is expecting me to stay invisible while you and Dad dismiss my work. I said, my voice calm but firm. I found your contractor's dirt, Ethan. I know you're involved. His eyes widened just for a second before the mask snapped back. You're paranoid, he snapped. You've always been jealous of my career. I stepped closer. I don't want your career. I want a family that doesn't treat me like a glitch in their system. He stared, his jaw tight, then turned and left. I watched him go, my heart pounding but my resolve solid. Had I shaken him or pushed him further into Vanguard's corner? 2 days later, I got a call from Aunt Karen. Sarah, your dad's been asking about you. He's shaken. Keeps saying he didn't know how far you'd gone in your work. He's coming to Raleigh tomorrow. Wants to meet. I agreed, more for closure than hope. We met at a diner near my house, him in civilian clothes, looking older, less certain. Sarah, he said, stirring his coffee, I underestimated you. I thought cyber was less. I was wrong. His voice was low, almost broken. I'm proud of you. The words I'd craved for years landed, but they felt hollow. You only see me now because I forced you to, I said. You and Ethan tried to bury my work to protect your legacy. He flinched, not denying it. I didn't know about Vanguard, he said. Ethan, he's in over his head. I nodded, the pieces falling into place. Dad wasn't the mastermind, Ethan was. That night, Chin sent me a file, an intercepted email from Vanguard CO to Ethan, outlining a plan to discredit my report by planting false data. It was dated the day after Ethan's visit. I forwarded it to Rivera, who replied, Good catch, Miles. We're moving on this. Stay sharp. The next morning, I was called to a secure briefing. Rivera and an Inspector General agent laid it out. Vanguard CO was arrested. Ethan was under investigation for conspiracy. Your evidence was airtight, Rivera said. You've done the Navy a service. I nodded, but my mind was on Ethan. How far had he gone? And Dad, did he know more than he admitted? A month later, I moved to a new role at Naval Station Norfolk, teaching cyber forensics to young officers. My office had a small window overlooking the harbor, ships gliding in the distance. I pinned Aunt Karen's photo, me at 12, coding on Mom's laptop, to my bulletin board, a reminder of who I'd always been. Ethan faced a court-martial. Dad retired quietly, his legacy tarnished. He sent a letter. Sarah, I failed you. I'm learning. If you're open, I'm here. I didn't reply, but I kept the door cracked. Chin visited, bringing coffee and a grin. Cypher's changing the game, he said, lingering after we talked shop. Want to grab dinner sometime? I smiled, not committing but not saying no. I opened my laptop and typed, Rules for my frame. Rule 1. No one who dims your light gets a place. Rule 2. Family isn't owed, it's earned. Rule 3. Your worth doesn't need their validation. I closed the laptop, Pixel purring beside me. The victory wasn't the briefing or Ethan's fall. It was choosing myself. Every line of code, every boundary set, every step into a life I'd built without their shadow. I wasn't in their frame anymore. I'd painted my own. Hey everyone. Thanks for tuning into the Revenge Tempest channel. If you love this story, please hit that subscribe button and join our amazing community. Drop a comment below letting us know where you watched us from.